Welcome to Independent Verification. My name is Andrew, and today we're going to be reviewing the TH3D EZBoard Lite version 1.2 for the Creality Ender 3 Pro. The Ender 3 comes with an 8-bit processor, but that has some inherent limitations as you start to add on extra functions like auto bed levelers, filament runout sensors, and various other features that you can enable with third-party firmwares. To rectify these issues, a variety of 32-bit processor boards have arrived on the market, and they can range anywhere from $30 upwards to this board, which is $100. But is it worth it to spend the extra money on the $100 board? If you are already running products from TH3D, such as their EZABL for auto bed leveling and their filament out sensor, you can pretty much guarantee that this board will work with any of the products that they make as accessories for the Ender 3. But ultimately, the question comes down to this. Does upgrading to a 32-bit processor actually result in better quality prints? Well, in order to do that, we're going to have to do some testing. In order to quantify this in any meaningful way, we're going to need to do a before and after test. Now, I've got my Ender 3 Pro here running the stock motherboard that comes with the printer, although we are using a modified firmware. This is running the TH3D unified firmware that you can get from their website. In addition to this, we are also using the TH3D EZABL, that's their proximity-based auto bed leveling kit, in conjunction with a PEI build surface using Hatchbox branded black PLA as our testing material. In order to gauge the quality of before and after, we'll be printing none other than the good old benchy, and we'll be doing it with the same exact G code and everything. We're just going to be swapping out the boards. So let's go ahead and print our first benchy with the stock motherboard. So we've got our benchy printing at a layer height of 0.12 millimeters with a nozzle diameter of 0.4 millimeters. This will take several hours, but we're going to come back to it as soon as it's done, and then swap the board, make another one, and compare and contrast the differences. We're also going to compare and contrast the differences in the amount of noise that the machines make between the stock 8-bit board and the new 32-bit board. So let's take my microphone and just hear the sounds of the machine. So after 3 hours and 28 minutes, 38 seconds, we have our completed benchy. It's worth noting that this is more of a review than it is a tutorial. That being said, since I have the machine open anyway, I might as well let you guys know that this is a direct drop and swap replacement, meaning that every connection is in the exact same spot as it would be on the stock motherboard. So you just need to unscrew the old board, unplug every other wire that goes into one place, and it will match up physically in the same location on the new board. Now that we have the 32-bit board installed as well as my Z-probe offset readjusted for this new setup, we are printing the same benchy with the same exact G-code file as before. And currently things are going pretty smooth. Now, because Marlin 2.0 is constantly updating, I figured it would be a good idea to show you guys what version of Marlin 2.0 I am currently working with. So this, let's turn down that, is the current setup information that I have. There is one thing before this benchy is printed, however, that I want to make note of. I've got my microphone turned up as loud as it can go because I want you to take actually a lack of noise because these are silent drivers on the board. So the loudest things on this machine are the fans. If you are not a fan of that high-pitched whining noise, this board fixes that issue. The printing has officially completed. On the left, we have our 8-bit benchy, and on the right, we have our 32-bit benchy. Now we're going to go over a comparison of the two. So let's get these nice and close, and we're going to start off by looking at the side. So let's zoom in and first look at the details on the bottom for the 8-bit. And then let's kind of just pan over and look at the 32-bit. The 32-bit hull looks just a tad bit better, and the lines going up and down on here, I feel, are straighter and less bulgy than the ones on the 8-bit, although I believe on the firmware for Marlin using the 8-bit processor, you can adjust that so that it doesn't do that. So now let's switch this over to the front. And as we take a look, honestly, both of these prints have come out spectacular, and that really is a testament to how good this little machine is, regardless of the processor you're using in it. Because, you know, if you really didn't know that one was 32-bit or 8-bit, you might not really see the differences between them. You might not notice much. And perhaps the benchy is just not stressful enough of a print to gauge a major difference between these two. So we're gonna still continue to look at some details here, like for instance the back. It should say hashtag 3D benchy. And it's really hard to tell which one I like better. I feel like almost like the 8-bit one came out just a wee bit better with this really, really tiny text right here. But speaking of text, we need to look at the bottom of the benchy and see how that did. Now, on the bottom here, there's a clear difference, and this, I feel, has more to do with first layer adhesion settings involving your Z-axis offset and baby stepping and such being perfect. But I did notice when it was putting down the first layer for the benchy on the 32-bit machine, it went down absolutely flawlessly. Every little movement was so precise and exact, versus on this one, it's all kind of faded together. And I suppose my baby stepping was a bit closer to the bed than this one, because the baby stepping Z-axis offset was different when I switched boards, despite that everything else on the machine was the same. And it was off by as much as I believe an entire tenth of a millimeter, because the baby stepping works in 25 hundredths of a millimeter, I believe. So there's some things to note with that. But moving forward, we're going to look at some top-down details now. And we're going to zoom in a bit again. Really take a close look at everything. See, we got some bulging as we go up on the sides here, on the corners. Whereas on the 32-bit benchy on the right, it's not as bad. But again, that is something you can fix, or at least adjust in Marlin on the firmware side of things. So, looking at the layers of flatness, both, again, are still very, very good. We look at the smokestacks. Everything is clean. Everything's the way it should be. And then looking at some of the stuff in the fronts, we can see that... Sorry, I'm just adjusting some stuff here. Everything's good. Honestly, you'd be hard-pressed to tell the difference if you didn't know. So I personally believe that as far as benchies go, this is not the right way to stress a 32-bit board. So there's going to be some things that a 32-bit board is just more capable of, particularly things involving sweeping curves and such that require a lot of points to make that curve a bit more curvy. It's like adding tessellation to an object in 3D, where you're adding more points in which to follow a curve. So, in that respect, a 32-bit board probably does better than an 8-bit board. But for small little prints like this, it is a little bit debatable. So ultimately, we have to ask ourselves a single question. Is it worth it to upgrade to a 32-bit processor? Nay, is it worth it to upgrade to one of the most expensive 32-bit processors for a budget printer like the Creality Ender 3? And unfortunately, the answer is maybe. It's not really a yes or a no. It's a use case scenario, because here's the thing. These 3D printers are highly customizable, and if you never intended to go beyond the stock stuff that comes with the printer, you can do some pretty incredible things with just the bare printer, which is around $200 US at the time of this video. But if you want to start doing some pretty incredible complex things with a bunch of additional equipment and modifications, there comes a point where that 8-bit processor, the limited amount of memory on the board, and its overall capabilities start to come into question. Now, yes, 8-bit boards do certainly do the job pretty well most of the time, but as time goes on, we're going to start seeing the standard become 32-bit boards for a lot of different reasons. Reasons that we might not even be entirely sure about yet, because maybe they don't exist. You see, that's the kind of if question with the Marlin version 2 or 2.0 firmware, is it's still being developed. There's changes that come about every so often, adding new features, tweaking said features, fixing bugs, making improvements. So the next big thing that might be available for 3D printers might not exist, currently speaking, but with a board like this, you are essentially set and ready for the future for whatever big upgrades you might want to do that maybe you didn't know you wanted to do. So that's what this comes down to, is do you want a 32-bit board and the additional benefits that come with it for whatever reason? And do you want one of the best 32-bit boards? Not only the best because of the insanely good build quality, but the ease of installation, the availability of first-party support, the availability of first-party and third-party support in terms of firmware developments. I mean, there's a lot of good reasons to stick with the TH3D ecosystem of available aftermarket upgrades. And quite frankly, I'm glad I went that route, because they do a really good job in thinking ahead. So, with that being said, the answer is still, it really depends on you. I can definitely foresee a future where a processor like this will come in handy. I could definitely see a difference in terms of the quality of the curvature of designs when printing with this. Again, it has to go back to that thing we were talking about with making a circle. If you try to make a circle in straight lines and you only have like 5 points, that's not going to be as nice as having like 30 points to make a circle. So it becomes more like a jagged circle versus a smooth circle, and that's kind of one of the things that the 32-bit boards are able to do. So complex things seem to do better on 32-bit boards because of the amount of data they can process at once, because they're controlling a lot of different things at the same time. As it stands, I was pushing the 8-bit board near its limits, but I have nowhere even begun to crack the surface of what a 32-bit board is capable of. We have just seen the tip of the iceberg here. And when something really cool comes out, it's nice to know that I will be able to utilize whatever that thing might be. So that's the review, guys. Ultimately, you have to make this decision for yourself. I know it's not the yay or nay answer I normally give, but this is a complex question. Nevertheless, I hope it was helpful, and if it was, please leave a like. And if you feel like I have earned your subscription and you want to see more of the kind of videos like this that I put out, consider subscribing. Until then, see you next time, guys. Remember, measure twice, print once.